Welcome to another episode, everyone. Jasmine Crockett, she torches FBI Director Kash Patel for having a dinner while a murder investigation was going on. She accuses him of being a failure and for protecting the guilty. This is really a destruction job.
Access is recognized.
Man, oh man, there has been so much today, and I truly don't know where to start. So I'm just going to make sure that we start off with a few facts. So a couple of facts that we need to make clear for everyone is that, number one, Director Christopher Wray, when he was appointed to be the head of the FBI, was appointed by Donald Trump. Now, I will agree that I definitely take issue with a number of decisions that Donald Trump makes, especially when it comes to the people that he decides to appoint to very important positions, including this one, because I did have to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question. Now, what I want to go through is to talk about why you are a failure and why, honestly, we just need to tell you bye-bye. I know that you got a little upset and you put on your show for your boss because it seems like you're trying to save your job when it came to talking to Senator Booker yesterday. But let's go through some of your failures. So before you were even confirmed, and I think one of my colleague from Georgia, pointed out that you were already targeting career officials so that you could direct illegal firings. Mind you, these cases that you were so upset about, which are the ones tied to Trump, the cases came through his handpicked FBI director. And frankly, when people sit around and say things like, oh, you know, we're happy because now we feel safe, I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacists, because I specifically as a black woman definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues, and frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught. I don't have any confidence in you. And if we start talking about the reasons that I lack confidence, we could start with you not just wanting to acknowledge some simple facts. Simple facts like the vast majority of the threats are coming from right-wing extremism. And I know my colleagues have tried to stress this, but I decided that I would maybe do it in a different way. Number one, I have a couple of UCs. Ken Buck, one of multiple Republicans receiving death threats for voting against Jim Jordan as House Speaker.
Without objection.
Another one, Republican lawmaker says she received death threats after voting against Jim Jordan in Speaker's race.
Without objection.
In addition, there was another one from another colleague who now is leaving Congress because they said that they were calling his wife anonymously and threatening her life to the extent that she ended up sleeping with a firearm.
Without objection.
Okay, so here's the deal. How are we supposed to have confidence?
He's most certainly a failure, Kash Patel, put in place, put in power by Donald Trump. And that's all he ever says is that's not true. It is true. He has no prior experience as an FBI anything. And yet he's the FBI director, the director of the FBI. This is only to keep concealed the Epstein files, which he has been doing a great job of. This is the only reason Donald Trump appointed him was to conceal the Epstein files. He has been concealing the Epstein files, will not reveal them. Did you see the hearing that I'm gonna have to go through that hearing that he had a few months ago on the Epstein files? It was brutal. It was fascinating. It was unbelievable what I was witnessing. I'm going to have to get into that. That's the only reason he was put into power. He doesn't have any experience. The FBI director, but this administration is corrupt. How many black women have lost their jobs under this administration already since last year. It's corrupt.
When you're sitting up here telling the Senate yesterday that it will take you 14 years before you can get the FBI fully staffed to do their jobs, you're also now redirecting resources so that they can go and play ICE agents on the streets. You're getting rid of your most qualified people. And even when it came down to somebody that you consider to be a friend, you were posted up having some fancy dinner to the extent that you posted not only once erroneously, you posted twice erroneously as it relates to catching somebody, and then you want to go and say, let me take a victory lap, because honestly, if it wasn't for parents deciding that they were going to turn in their child, it seems like y'all wouldn't have got there, even though he literally confessed online. So I'm confused about what it is that the FBI is doing, except for trying to put on a show for the apprentice, or whatever you want to call him. The day after all of this took place, there was domestic terrorism that was taking place at HBCUs. They were targeted. Yet I didn't hear anything from the FBI about what was going on. And again, black people kept saying, how did we end up in this? Because the numbers are so very clear that white supremacy is a problem. And honestly, I've not heard anything out of you today that makes me believe that you're going to do anything about the white supremacy problem, the one that is leading to children being killed, children being shot, as well as members of their community as they're worshiping in their churches.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. If the gentleman would like to respond to any of that. Well, I mean, I'll respond. Kash.
Oh, he gonna respond. This is Jim Jordan, of course. This is who she was talking about. That when she first began to speak about the people who had received death threats for voting against this individual here, Jim Jordan. So he has always a smug and arrogant attitude. And you see how he just said after she goes, on her tangent, on her rampage, if you will, he just sit there with his hand. You want to respond to that? It's like, fuck what all that shit she just said, whatever. You want to respond to that? If you don't, I will. She wasn't talking to you. He was talking to Kash Patel. I'm sure he's a man. He's the director of the FBI. He can speak for himself. He doesn't need you to speak for him, Jim Jordan. Why do you feel the need to do so? Unless this individual, Kash Patel, is a puppet. And you all are just pulling the strings. You want to respond to that? And then before he can even say yes or no, he said, no, I'll respond to it. Daddy got this. We're your daddy. I'm your daddy. I'll talk. Even though she wasn't talking to me. Yes, she made reference to him that these individuals were fired or threatened for not voting for him, Jim Jordan. But her whole speech was directed at Kash Patel, saying that she was referring to the fact that Kash Patel, well, as she said, had not been mentioning white supremacy, not investigating any white supremacy activities here in the country. He's the director of the FBI. This is his job. And that many threats had been coming from these white supremacist groups. And he was dead silent at this time, not saying anything. Instead, blaming black people for everything that's going on in the damn country. Let's see what Jim Jordan has to say about this.
Patel, as I said when I introduced him, public defender, former prosecutor, top staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, deputy director of national intelligence with the National Security Council, chief of staff at the Department of Defense, and FBI director. I think that's a pretty good resume for the guy who's now running the top law enforcement agency in our country. And we've seen all the stats that he's given to the committee on how much better they're doing at getting the bad guys than the previous guy was doing. With that, I recognize the gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
In one of the most blistering moments of the hearing, Jasmine Crockett went straight for the jugular, accusing FBI Director Kash Patel of incompetence, misplaced priorities, and abandoning the FBI's core mission. Crockett laid out a devastating argument. Career officials pushed out, resources diverted away from domestic extremism, and a bureau increasingly focused on optics instead of public safety. Her most explosive charge, that Patel was enjoying a fancy dinner while a high-profile killing investigation spiraled, landed like a gut punch. The exchange wasn't just about one case.
Yes, it landed like a gut punch. Shout out to, and that's Blue Lens Politics there, the channel. Shout out to Blue Lens Politics. There you have it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Reactionary Politics, we're covering it all. Kash Patel, is he indeed incompetent? Should he be the director of the FBI? Is he diverting funds from investigating extremism, white extremism? Because he doesn't care and he's complicit? Is he a tool, a stew of Donald Trump? Was he put into power in order to continue to conceal the Epstein files, of which Trump is heavily mentioned? That Trump, according to the files and sources, had more interactions with Epstein, over 1,600, than anyone else. Just while these files have been concealed and Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Perhaps, because these people are doing anything to conceal their wicked crimes. These are evil individuals. And their treachery, their evilness knows no limits. Understand that. They have no limits. Zero. Stay safe, stay free, and power to the people.